do you have a tour memory that sticks out in your mind where if I asked you, like, give me your best or worst tour memory, you could just kind of pull it out of your head just like that?
I have the worst.
Okay. Those are always good, though. Guys, we're being joined today by August Zadra. The new album is Guiding Star. It is available now on most platforms. Check availability on your favorite one. It's also available on Amazon. You guys can pick up the hard copy for those of you old schoolers like me that like to have something in their hand. So without further ado, please welcome to the show, August Zadra.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Hey, bro, it's good to see you, man. Good to see you. So, new album's a buzz, man. I'm excited. I'm excited to talk about that. That's for sure.
Well, I like to talk about it, so whatever you got.
Yeah. So let's start off by talking about the. We'll get the pandemic questions out of the way. How did you make it through? Are you healthy through the whole thing? The band, all that.
I will say that it's a perfect intro to this conversation because what kept me sane, and I'm going to pull out one of my ears because it just sounds funny. Can you still hear me okay? And
Yep. Perfect.
One of the things that got me through this was, my last show with Dennis was 2000. It was March 7, 2020, about a week before the whole world went sideways, right?
Mm-hmm.
And all these shows were getting canceled, and we had a family trip planned to Mexico, and I was going to end up meeting my family down there like a week later because of gigs that we had, and everything started canceling. So I ended up getting to do the full trip with them. But I know I'm on a weird tangent, sorry. But
Right.
we got back from that trip, and within a week, I'm getting itchy to play and sing, and so people were just starting to do some live stream kind of things, right? So
Mm-hmm.
I grabbed my acoustic guitar and so let me just sit on the stool and I'll play a couple songs. We'll see what happens. I need it for my sanity. And it turned out, the first time I did it, we did a Friday night. And I called it the Acoustic Happy Hour Hang. It wasn't going to be like a gig. It was just like
Nice.
hey, come into my living room, and this is what we do on a Friday night. If
Sure.
I'm not gigging. And several hundred people tuned in the first week, and it was like people needed to have that entertainment and that connectivity. And it turned into a thing. And so again, the Acoustic Happy Hour Hang, it was the abbreviation, it was AHHH. The sound is ah. The first thing you hear on this record, and this was a happy accident, as you know, the song starts with ah. And so
yeah.
It was kind of a cool thing that happened there. And last Friday I had a gig. We can talk more about that in a bit too, but the week before that was the 88th Friday that I've done this from my house. So that's how I've gotten through the pandemic, with some sanity and being connected to other people and providing kind of a community. It's been a blessing.
That's great, man. So now, how did it? I mean, obviously, it affected your tour schedule. How did that work out with you? Like rehearsing with bands, writing material. Did you get to write a lot while you were in your downtime? Or
yes, absolutely. And as we talk through some of the things on this record, some of the songs have been around for 7 or 8 years. Some of them were very new, but there was no rehearsing done. This is I haven't played that last show with Dennis was March 7, I think I said, and then I have been performing some shows starting last July. Been doing gigs with Tommy DiCarlo from Boston.
Yeah.
And we go out. It's the same backing band. We do a set of Journey with my buddy Rudy Cardenas, who sang for Waiting for Monday, or sings for Waiting for Monday. And then Tommy comes out, we do a set of Boston. So that's been good to be out in front of people and be on stage and get that full release, But for this recording project, project is probably the best word to use. It is a solo album, but it's largely a collaboration. I was super fortunate to be working with Alessandro Del Vecchio on this.
Mm-hmm.
You probably are familiar with him, and the whole world should be. He's an amazingly talented guy that plays literally every instrument, sings his ass off, if I can say that.
Absolutely.
And he mixed and mastered the record as well. He just brings so much to the table. He was critical in the beginning of this, we had about a 45-minute Zoom conversation. That's how we met. We were put together by Frontiers, and talked through things. He helped me with gear decisions because I essentially put together a very modest home studio to do this, and we did everything. Sending files back and forth. But I gave him a boatload of snippets. Some were full songs, but there was a lot of snippets that I said, I just need help. Like a lot of guitar players, I write sections. Like I have these 2 chords that go so well together, and I don't know where to take them after that, or here's a whole song, but the bridge needs to be better, or this kind of thing. And he's masterful at helping weave these things together and improve things.
That's awesome. So let's talk about you and your career for a little bit. When did you first get interested in music?
I'll try to be more concise. I tend to talk too long on all these things.
Oh, dude, it's fine. Believe me.
Cool. I grew up in Alaska, and I was a kind of a big fish in a small pond playing baseball. And I was a pitcher, and I thought, when you're 15 years old, I think I might have a career as a professional baseball player. That's what my sights were on. I was a casual fan of music, but I certainly wasn't playing the music at this point.
Right.
And then I had an issue with my elbow from pitching, and I was throwing curveballs too early for my development. And we went to the doctor, and he said, "Well, you've fractured a growth center in your elbow, and you can't pitch anymore." And it was devastating, but he put a great spin on it right away. And that my mom said, "Well, what should he do now?" And he's like, "Why don't you play guitar?" Boom, off to the races. It was a life-changing moment for me.
Nice, man.
I wish I knew that doctor's name to go back to thank. But and I'll also say in the beginning that my mom would say, "Oh, your life changed 180 degrees there, and not for the better," in her opinion in the beginning, because I became absolutely obsessed with guitar, and grades suffered. There's a lot of it. I think that's not an uncommon situation for people who become either, it's either focusing on music or whether it's a sport or whether it's video games or something that's taking you away from focusing on school at the time. But she's made her peace with that over the years, and
Right.
It was clear this wasn't a phase.
Well, you got to figure. I mean, at that age, you figure. Let's see, it's either calculus or learn Black Dog. Zeppelin's going to win every time. You know that. You know what I mean? That's a thing.
Absolutely.
So now, did that injury affect you playing guitar at all? That's kind of
oddly not. I mean,
no. Okay.
It may have affected the way, maybe my arm position, perhaps with picking, but
okay.
Yeah, I've never had any pain related to that. Thank God.
So I'm guessing guitar was your first instrument. I think we've established that. Did you play any other instruments besides guitar throughout the whole progression?
I have dabbled, occasionally with keyboards. I can play chords. I can play the melodies. I lack the independence to play with both hands, if that makes sense. There's an interdependence. I can't play the bass line with one hand and the melody with the other. And some guys can do that and sing, and while they're doing calculus. But I can write some things on keyboard, but I would never say I played keys. I could piece something together, but no other instruments. Although if I didn't play guitar, I also always tell people that I would love to play saxophone. I just think it's the sexiest instrument.
Oh, it is. Yeah, you can't go wrong there. Couple more questions on this, and we're digging deep just because I have this odd curiosity with stupid questions. But do you remember the name of the first band you were in when you were younger?
Yes, it came up recently because I've been doing a big garage project at home over the last 2 months, and my wife and I are finding all kinds of these things from our sordid past. And I found some notes, and I have a cassette recording that I haven't even been able to play yet. And I saw a drawing that the drummer had made, and it was called Crystal Illusion.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
Which kind of led into the Grand Illusion, and then that whole part that we can discuss later too, with my involvement with Dennis DeYoung. But yeah, Crystal Illusion.
Do you remember your first gig?
maybe not specifically, but I will tell you that I do know the first 3 shows that I did with my friends in front of our friends, like the teen club kind of thing. I think we played songs with never gave any consideration to having a singer. I played guitar, we had a bass player and a drummer, and we just played these songs and no one even thought about singing. And I can tell you that we opened the first song of those 3 shows was Bastille Day by Rush.
Oh, nice. Oh, geez. Yeah. You guys went for it. That's good, though.
Yeah. I'm sure we sucked mightily.
I mean, what band doesn't when you first start out? But you know what? That's how you build. You get better. That's
Absolutely.
the foundation for where you are today. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to play the first single off the album right now. It's called "Rise from the Fire." Tell us a little bit about this song before we get into it.
I'm a firm believer that every rock band needs a song that has fire in it. And the struggle on this one was to not, and back to the beginning of talking with Alessandro, in the beginning I said, I don't feel like I have the ability to write lyrics for much of this. So he said, no problem, I can take care of that too. But then I end up rewriting almost everything, not because I don't want to make it sound like that's a bad reflection on him, but as part of the process, I kind of found my voice and got more comfortable with changing things, and then kind of went to town on a lot of it.
Mm-hmm.
But this is a song that's, I wanted the album to be uplifting. I'm a very positive person. You mentioned that about yourself earlier too. And it's, I do like a lot of heavy music, but I've never been drawn to like the darker, heavier stuff, I guess. And I told Alessandro that I was more into bands like Triumph, Styx, Journey, Boston. That's that golden era for me, that late 70s period, right? And so some of this, I'm sure you can hear, harkens back to that, but kind of leans forward as well.
Mm-hmm.
And this song, it's got it's a powerful, inspirational message, and it's got some driving guitars. And if you'll indulge me, that it's fun for me. I never know what it's like on the other side of the listener's perspective.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's pretty easy to spot the influences on a lot of this, but there's no hiding that this is my Neil Schon guitar song.
Yeah. Okay. I definitely get that. So without further ado, let's check it out. This is "Rise from the Fire." We will be right back with August Zadra.
Right on. Thanks.
Into call to action. Yeah.
right, guys, we're back with August Zadra. Coming out of that song, Neil Sean. So, first of all, let me finish my first thought there. Neil Sean,
Sure.
definitely, you can hear that in there for sure. But you mentioned Triumph on the way out, going into that next song. Like, I don't get how some of these bands, Rush included, Triumph, these 3-piece bands get so much sound out of them. Like you'd be like, you're like,
Incredible.
it can't be with these, but they're just, I mean, and we were talking about this, I think a couple of weeks ago, we have another show that we do around here, and we were talking about power trios. And I said, it's sad, and probably no chance he's ever going to hear this, but the weakest link in Rush is actually Alex Lifeson.
And that's amazing.
And it's like how can you say that? Like, Alex is amazing, and he's probably one of the best guitarists that walks the planet, but like, that's crazy to think that you know what I mean? And I'm just like, I'm like, now
three
my mind's
masters at their craft, and yes, I think I've heard this argument before, because Neil Peart, of course, is one of the greatest drummers ever. Geddy, who can play craziest bass lines while singing his amazing, his vocals are incredible, and then you've got Alex, who's holding it all. I think his strength, and I will say he influenced me as a guitar player in terms of his chord work. It's just brilliant, and he also had some incredible solos. And there are 3 masters that came together to make this huge sound, like you were saying. And but to single out, it was greater than the sum of their parts.
So now, professionally, you've worked with, you've played with or worked with some of the greats. Tell us about some of them and what that was like for you. I mean, did you I know that you played with Dennis for a long time, and we'll talk about that in a minute, but
that's the bulk of my experience, really. I have worked with a lot of name people over the years, but really, I spent a long time, probably too much time, but that's a bad pun, but the way it turned out was fortuitous, in that I worked, while my wife and I raising the family, I worked in the tribute band scene in LA for 10 years. I did a Journey tribute, so I did all the Neil Sean stuff, and Styx. I did a Boston tribute, and the Styx tribute is what led to me getting the gig with Dennis. And can I talk about that, or is that?
Of course, no, absolutely.
Because this is an interesting story, in that it wasn't too long after Journey famously found Arnel Pineda online on YouTube. And so Dennis's son, who's our lighting director, he's an insomniac, and he was up late one night, and he was, typing in his browser, Filipino Styx tribute, and he's trying to find the next, an Arnel guy, right?
Right.
And it eventually, the infamous YouTube rabbit hole, all the things on the side start luring you in, and he found these videos of me, and I'm never an early adopter of technology. So it was one of the last shows that we did as a band. Somebody had filmed it from way back at the soundboard, so the video is distant, but the audio turned out really well. And I'd had these VHS tapes, or 8mm, whatever it was. Finally got them digitized. I'm like, everyone's putting things on YouTube. This will be fun. It was a good band. Let's get it out there. And 2 days after I put the videos up, I got a call from Danny Wilde of the Rembrandts about working together on something. And that ended up not going anywhere. But 2 months later, there's Matthew DeYoung looking online, finds these videos. And the story is that he called his dad at 12:30 at night, and Dennis was like, "There better be blood. No one's waking me up this time, And he said, "You need to go downstairs right now and watch this video." And Dennis doesn't trust technology either, so he's like, so when I eventually talked to him, he said, "Well, I see these videos, and I hear you, and I see you playing, and I see you're a performer." He said, "But you need to come out here and sit with me and see if we can make the sound together." Because anybody could, he wasn't accusing me of doing a voiceover or anything, like that. But it's like, and I told him, these videos, that footage is 6 years old. That was the only band I've ever sang lead in, so it was a situation where he said, well, this was December 22nd when I talked to him on the phone. And he said, well, how soon can you get up here? I'm thinking about making some changes in my band. I said, well, it's Christmas. And he said, okay, well, after Christmas, do you have any New Year's plans? I said, I do actually. When do you get back? January 2nd. I'll send you a ticket. Be here on the 3rd. So for those 2 weeks, I ran around the house singing 8 hours a day, driving my wife and kids nuts. Styx Greatest Hits is playing constantly. And it was a terrifying, thrilling experience that turned into one of the best things of my life. You know,
That's amazing, man. That's absolutely awesome. And I mean, Tommy's no slouch to that's great that, I mean, it's great that they saw that in you by just a video. You know what I mean? Like how stuff comes together like that. It's just that's awesome. That's a great story, first of all. But second of all, like it's just kind of weird how universes collide like that, you know?
yes.
That's pretty awesome.
And back to you were saying off camera, I think we were talking about, shining a light on local talent.
Mhm.
Again, I spent so much time in the tribute scene here in LA. I felt like, and there was others before me in similar situations. I'm not claiming this, that I did this, but it felt like it was a validation for a lot of us. And there's a friend of mine who would use the term, undiscovered professionals, that you've got guys that are, talent sometimes isn't the biggest requirement for becoming a rock star, right?
Right.
But there's lots of guys that the world will never hear of that are incredibly talented.
Absolutely.
Have every right to be heard, but the way the universe doesn't work sometimes.
100%. Yeah.
And that's another quick thing that when I was talking with Dennis the first day that I met him, and I was giving him my background and things and whatnot. And he said, you know what your problem is? He said, you've always thought of yourself as a guitar player who sings when you should have thought of yourself as a singer who plays guitar. Then you probably would have been somewhere. And he goes, well, nah, you'd probably still be nowhere. That's the way the universe works. And he laughs. And I'm like, and that's the truth. And that's one of the reasons it took me so long to get to doing this solo record, where Frontiers approached me about doing a solo record about 4 years ago.
Mhm.
And I said, no, I still didn't feel like I was that guy. And most of that, I mean, I'll play guitar for anybody, anytime, but singing is such a personal thing. And I didn't feel like I knew who I was as a singer yet,
Mhm.
and I mean, even back to, talking about that Crystal Illusion band, one of the first things I ever sang was when we realized we needed to sing these songs, and Too Much Time on My Hands was out. And I said, well, I kind of sound like that guy. I'll sing that one. And I never learned how to sing. I just imitated, I need to learn by singing along with, with records. And as we all do in the car, especially when we're young, right? Just blasting stuff out. But, and then even after I had the gig with Dennis, and I tell this story a lot now, that we did a lot of shows with Night Ranger, and I was talking with Brad Gillis one time, and I told him about this, and I turned it down, and he's like looking at me crazy. He said, because you're playing with Dennis DeYoung and you're singing the Tommy Shaw song. You are a singer. And it was really, it gave me more confidence. And I've had a lot of encouragement and support from a lot of musicians and friends. And finally it was like, we did the Waiting for Monday record, and they came back to me again and said, do you want to do a solo record? And so I said, yes, let's do this thing. And I'm so happy with how it turned out. And it's been an amazing experience. Very fulfilling.
So let's get into the new album then a little bit. It's called Guiding Star. This is, you just said, your first full length. Let's talk about the title. How'd you come up with Guiding Star?
I'm glad you did. And because where it comes from is that I originally wanted to name this band, I wanted to call it Polaris. Polaris is the North Star.
Mm-hmm.
Most often erroneously attributed as the brightest star in the sky, which is not quite true, but it was known as a navigational guide for centuries.
Sure.
And it's again, I told you I'm from Alaska. It's on the Alaska state flag, so it had significance to me. We found out that it's already been used by every great name has been used, right? So there was some band from Australia that had used it, and so Frontiers said we can't get the rights to this. And kind of a ironic twist there, and is that Polaris, the actual star, is only visible from the northern hemisphere. So the Australians have never seen it, but there you go. So that's the guiding star, and it had by no means had anything to do with me saying I'm a guiding star.
Mhm.
And if you see on the album that also Frontiers' art department did a masterful job. I think it's a beautiful album cover, and you see how they have you'll like it with your green motif.
Yes.
The Aurora Borealis is woven in there, and there's some nice
Mhm.
greens involved. And that's another bit of an homage to Alaska for me.
Yeah, for sure. Now, I know you're probably going to sigh or roll your eyes, but I'm going to ask you to pick your favorite kid here. Do you have a favorite track on the album?
It's it's a cliche. No, they're all my favorites, but
Right, right.
I'm glancing over, looking at the track listing in real quick, because it's like, I think it might be either, I love A Matter of Yesterday for a lot of reasons, but
Mhm.
I think the one that really grabs me the most, I felt strongest about, is this is making a statement, is Won't Let Your Love Take Me Down. I remember coming up with that guitar riff and thinking, this feels like something that it's, hope this doesn't come off sounding wrong. A lot of the album is like this, that it sounds familiar in a way. It's not, it settles in nicely with a lot of the music that I always say you are what you eat. So,
Mhm.
and again, back to spot the influences. A lot of this stuff isn't groundbreaking by any means, but it sits in well with music that I like, I think, and it has a home in the past, but it's forward leaning. And what I've told some of my friends on that particular track, it's got in my opinion, the vocal is almost like in Jeff Soto, it was like when he did masterful harmony. He did the backing vocals on every song but one, and I would send him these things to sing to, and he was like, "Man, you got the Dokken vibe going on in this one," and that's
Nice.
what I kind of feel that too. And then the guitar solo. This is one where again, it was just me on the album playing guitars. There's some rhythm guitar work that was done by others as well, and especially on A Matter of Yesterday, Jimmy Leahy, my brother from the Dennis DeYoung band,
Mhm.
played brilliant acoustic guitars on there. But this particular track, Won't Let Your Love Take Me Down, has what was attempted. It's a split solo, but I'm playing both halves, and so I try to get a different tone and a little different approach on that. But it's me playing both parts, and I thought it had a lot of me in it. So that's kind of the struggle, I think, as a musician too, and where there aren't many. I'm not saying that I have this, and it's a goal for every player though, is to try to have your own unique voice in some way, that you can hear something and say, "Oh, I know who that guitar player is."
Mhm.
I'm nowhere near there yet, but that felt more like a little bit of my voice on that one that I'm proud of.
Well, I mean, you said that the influences are there. You can hear the influences in the music, and that is true. But the thing about this album is it's fresh. I
Thank
mean, you
you.
can hear the influences, but it's fresh and it's crisp, and it's like it's I don't want to say that music is stale, but I mean, you've heard so much of it, and then you
Yes.
hear the influences, and you're like, okay, I can hear this band, but it's got that edge to it where it's just it's new, but you can still hear the influences. And I think that's the key, is to kind of like take that influence, but you're making it your own.
Yes.
You're making it crisp and new, and I dig that. That's one thing I dig about this album, is that it's crisp from start to finish, and
Thank you. And
like you said,
I,
it's bright. It's up. It's not. There's no real negative vibes to it.
yeah,
If I can say that.
that I'm proud of. Yeah, I'm happy with. And I cannot overstate Alessandro's help in that regard. And he's tremendous. And um, there's a bit of a backlash, and because he's such a prolific writer, he does a lot of work for Frontiers with lots of bands,
Mhm.
and sometimes I won't name names, but a song will come out, and then the internet trolls are all, "Oh, it's just another, Alessandro paint by numbers song." And because he does so much work, of course he has a certain sound.
Sure.
And so, but he was getting, and it's all great work, but some people will say, "Oh, it's just all sounds the same now." And to your point a minute ago, a lot of it does sound, not just from him, where this genre has been around for so long that it's hard to bring something new to it. But it's because he worked with me on such a level where we fed off each other's strengths and helped each other. And I think it's the collaborative effort that made it what it is. He gets equal credit to me. I will give him equal credit on this record for sure.
There you go, for sure.
And of course, Jeff's gigantic voice, which those backing vocals are so huge. I think I think you might have mentioned, and we might get to talk about "Take My Hand." Is that one that we wanted to discuss? Or
yeah, that's the next one. We're going to play that one
Okay.
actually after this. After we finish talking about this here, yeah. But actually, tell me a little bit about "Take My Hand" because there's a little something special in there. No?
Yeah, and I told the interview I had just before you. I reminded me to tell this story that song. It's a Spinal Tap reference in that the song is in D minor, which is the saddest of all keys, right?
Right.
And it was inspired by this piece of music has been around for 7 or 8 years, and we had a neighbor who we really loved we found out they were going to be moving. And my wife was really sad about it, and I said, "Oh, I'll play something in D minor," and I started working on this song, and then I came with some other parts for it, and ended up writing that one up rather quickly, start to finish. But I had no lyrics or no really melodic idea for what I wanted to say in it. But here's this piece of music. And I started thinking at one point, maybe I can work with Dennis on this, and I could see maybe this morphing into into a Sweet Man Blue kind of thing. And I worked with several friends here locally that I've collaborated on songs with. That people would give me lyrical ideas, and I just never quite got to where I felt it needed to go. And when Alessandro wrote lyrics for this, they ended up being very dark. And I said, "Brother, I'm not comfortable singing these lyrics. I won't do this. It's not who I am as an artist, and I'm not." It wasn't anything terrible, but it's the devil knows my name, and I walked this dark road kind of thing. I'm like, that's not me.
Yeah.
But we're on a deadline. I'm like, I have to come up with something, right? And I was talking to Jeff, just a very dear friend of mine, and he goes, "I got you, bro. I got you." And I sent him the files in the song, and within overnight he comes back with this new set of lyrics that I loved. And he said, "Change anything you don't like, we'll kick it back and forth." And I rewrote about a third of it, I think, but most of the lyrics are his. And of course it features his huge voice. And on this one I laughed with he and Alessandro, because I said, "This sounds more like I'm harmonizing with you. I'm the backup singer on this one because his voice is so big."
Right.
But of course, the elephant in the room in this song is that Alessandro played a keyboard solo on the demo, and it was great. But I said, "You know what? I want to bring in a guest artist on this one if he'll do it." And he said, "Bro, it's your album. Whatever you want to do." And he goes, "Who is it?" I said, "I want to get Dennis to play the keyboard solo on this." And he goes, "That'd be awesome." So, so I reached out to Dennis. He called me about something. We were talking on the phone for a while, and I said, trying to work up my courage. And I said, "Hey, I got to ask you." I said, I'm in the middle of this recording project for my first record. And I said, what's your rate for a backing vocal or a keyboard solo?" And he said, "August, we'll just take it out of the money you didn't make not getting to work with me this year." He said, "Send the files." I was like, "This is awesome." So I sent it to him, and I waited, and I waited, and I waited. And I said, "Hey, I'm on a bit of a deadline here. Can you check that out?" And he's like, "Oh yeah, I'll get to it." He goes, "Remind me, what are the chords on that part?" I'm like, "Are you kidding me?" And so obviously he's Dennis Young. He could figure out what the chords are, right?
Of course, yeah.
But so I'm like, I don't know if I sent it to him, and then he sat on it again for a while, and Frontiers was saying, "Hey, what's the holdup on this?" And I said, I got to get Dennis to do this. And Alessandro said, "I'll wait as long as it takes. We got to get him on the record."
Sure.
And finally I said, "Dennis, if I don't get this from you by," I think the date was like August 1st. I said, "The album's not going to come out until next year. I'm on it. Don't worry." And 3 days later, I got it back from him.
Nice.
And they said, and I love it. And he said, "It's that sound that I'm known for, and you heard me do for 10 years now." And he said, "But it's got my thing. I hope you like it." And this is, we talked, like I said, how you want to have your voice on an instrument. I don't think anybody who's familiar with Dennis's work hears that, they know it's him, I think. And
Yeah,
I love what he brought.
No.
He said, I stepped on your vocal note, and at the beginning of the solo, I said, that's usually what singers do. So don't worry about it.
Yeah, he definitely didn't disappoint, you know?
Yeah, I love it. And
All right,
it's
guys.
just
So
a
let's,
thrill to have him
I'm
on
sorry, go
there.
ahead.
It's a thrill. Like when I first joined his band, I was pushing him to do an album. I wanted to be on an album with him, and I've
Yep.
done a couple with him now, but to have him on mine was just a thrill.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So let's check it out right now. We're gonna play "Take My Hand." Dennis is in there somewhere. I'm sure you can maybe figure it out. But check this out. It's "Take My Hand." We'll be right back with August Zadra.
Cool.
These lines are deep and wise. This life I can call my own. And all the lessons my father gave, I now bestow. Looking back, I've got no regrets. I learned to right the wrongs. And as I look into my children's eyes, I feel I finally know. Through the years and the memories, all the laughter and the pain, given the chance to go back in time, I would do it all again. Will you remember me when all is said and done? Till then, with my family, our hearts will beat as one. Embrace me, now take my hand. Take my Sweet revelation has been never looking back. A flame isn't burning, but a moth that it attracts. Elegantly wasted is like music to my ears. Loving you forever as I add another 1,000 years. Sweet revelation has been never looking back. All that we can control is the way that we react. Choice is a luxury, and our path always clear. Strength and conviction are a jury of my peers. Through the years and the memories, all the laughter and the pain, given the chance to go back in time, I would do it all again.
All right, we're back with August Zadra, and you had another something to add on to that before
Yeah,
we went into the song?
it's an admission of guilt that, or a bit of tipping of the hat again. For you astute listeners out there who are fans of 70s music, uh, Jim Croce, the song Time in a Bottle. If you listen to the ending, my guitar right out at the end, it's harmonized, and the beautiful D minor 9 chord at the end, that is a direct lift from that song. I'm like, well, anyone know that? Maybe they wouldn't if I didn't tell them, but now you know.
No, that's right. There you go.
Uh,
So now, what's next for you, man? I mean, you got the album out, and you're kind of riding on that high wave where it's, I'm sure it's exciting for you. Now, are you going to tour behind the album?
That's the $1 million question, and excuse me. Um, Nobody really knows what to do right now in a lot of areas of this ever-changing music landscape. And, you know, uh, even with the Frontiers promotion team, I said last week, I said, well, the album's coming out on Friday. I'm super psyched. What happens after that? He said, well, we're all looking for the magic bullet. And I said, well, I'll keep looking too. But I hope it's not a blank when I find it.
You're
But,
right.
it's people last night, my friends asked me, are you going to do a local show? Or are you going to tour? I said, well, right now I don't even have a band. Uh, and how does it happen? I would love to put together a band and play this material. I would love to play this live anywhere, anytime. But it comes down to a lot of it's economics, where I'm self-financed on this. I'd have to hire players, and I certainly can't afford to tour myself.
Right.
And,
Right.
and from Frontiers' side, I think, and they put together a lot of acts. There's a lot of projects. There's a lot of bands, and they're really there's such an abundance of material, trying to find something that might get some traction. And if it does, then they can, put some wherewithal behind it.
Mhm.
But I don't have a solid answer. And I wish I did. Other than I have a 3-album deal, so I will definitely be recording more. But everybody wants to play live. That's what we're doing this for. And while there's still people that will come out and see live music, and I hope that never goes away, I would love to perform this live. I just don't know how or when it'll happen.
Gotcha. So, a couple more questions, and I'll let you go. I know
Sure.
I'm taking up too much time already, but
You're all good.
do you have so good or bad? Do you have a tour memory that sticks out in your mind where if I asked you, like, give me your best or worst tour memory, you could just kind of pull it out of your head just like that?
I have the worst.
Okay, those are always good though. I
And,
mean, well, not at the time, but now.
right. And
You know?
as we're talking, a text just came in from the guy that was there for this. So we were visiting, I think it was my first year in Dennis's band, and we were playing in Connecticut at his outdoor event, and we were doing the song "Don't Let It End." And Dennis would do a stripped down acoustic version of this, and the song and then I would come in just to play the guitar solo in the middle of it on an electric guitar. But it's a song that uses a capo on the guitar, which changes the key of the instrument.
Mhm.
And somehow the tech had given the guitar to Jimmy, who plays the bulk of the song, and the capo was on the wrong fret. So it was on the second fret instead of the first fret, I believe, or vice versa.
Gotcha.
So he starts playing, and Dennis, just because he's Dennis and he's so musical, immediately adjusted his vocal to the guitar tune in a different key. I'm not Dennis. I'm not that musical. And so I come in step in for the guitar solo, and I come in, and I've played the song 100 times. So I come in, I play the first note, which I know it's supposed to sound like. And I'm like, oh my God, what's happening? It's totally wrong.
What is
And
going on? Yeah.
so I hit it 3 more times, right? I'm like, well, no, it's supposed to be right. And all of a sudden it's like one of those, the cliche dream where you're playing and you're in your underwear, or you forgot to study for the test, or whatever. And so I try a few more things, and it just keeps getting worse. And our keyboard player is looking at me from the side of the stage. He goes, "Are you having a stroke?" And I don't think he was kidding. And finally, I just ran off the stage in just an embarrassment. And they finished the song, and everything was okay. But it was humiliating. And the next day, we're at the airport at baggage claim, and all of a sudden, not a word was said about it the rest of that show, rest of that day. We're at baggage claim, and all of a sudden, Dennis goes, "Oh yeah, what the hell was going on with that?" And then Jimmy, God bless him, steps right in. He goes, "You know what it was? It was the capo was on the wrong fret." And so again, if I was as musical as Dennis, I would have realized right away that I'm a half step off. I'll
Sure.
fix this. But it was one of those, what is happening in this moment? I felt like someone handed me a tuba to play a solo on.
Yeah, right.
So that's the worst. And I hope you see the humor in that one.
I do. I mean, I do now. It had to have been. You were probably like.
The amazing thing is, it's not on YouTube.
Well, there you go. That's. I mean, there's a say. That's the worst. Is that everything good or bad is on YouTube now. You know,
everything's being recorded, and if you had your finest moment ever, no one recorded that, but all your blunders are there.
Yeah, I mean, I keep telling people, I'm like, I can't wait till cancel culture comes and gets me. Like, just do it. You know what I mean? Like, I don't care. You know, I don't try to compete against anybody. I just do my thing. Leave me alone. No,
that's admirable.
I figure if I get out of the way and they cancel me now, I can really do whatever the fuck I want. You know what I mean? Like,
there you go.
Hell, you know,
bring it on.
I can swear, but I'm trying to be nice. You know?
Yeah.
So I got one more question for you, and then I'll let you go. So, and this one's going to be you're going to have to think about this for a couple of seconds, I think. If you could give advice to a younger you, maybe like some 15-year-old kid back in Alaska, remember, in regards to the music business, like a kid that's just starting off, about the business, what kind of advice would you give a younger you?
I had a local guitar hero as a kid. He was only a few years older than me, but he was the local guy. And his name was Maverick Gibson, which is his given name. He was born to be a rock star or a gunslinger, right?
Oh, God, yeah.
And he was a brilliant player. He was a guy who talked about going to third grade show and tell with Jimi Hendrix, Are You Experienced? And he probably could play the whole record already. Yeah. And he's just a brilliant musician. And I remember coming out, at some point I came out to get in my car, and under the windshield wiper was a note, give me a call, Maverick Gibson. I was like, oh my God. And he even knows who I am, right? And I was barely playing much guitar, a couple of years at that point. Mm-hmm. And so I called him. I was nervous as could be. And he talked for a while, and he ended up kind of bringing me into his band and taking me under his wing. And it taught me a lot. And at a certain point, he left Alaska to go to attend GIT in Hollywood, which I did later myself. Mm-hmm. And when he came back up, we were all, tell us what, give us and he said, the best information I can give you, the best advice, August, is that there's a ton of brilliant musicians out there. Be the best you can be, because they'll never be a better you than you are. And to extrapolate on that, what I would tell myself now in retrospect is that, yes, be yourself more, have more confidence to find your own voice, do it sooner. And I love music, so I still learn songs from so many other bands. I'm always studying and just playing for fun, just learning and being immersed in music. But to try to find your own way sooner, write your own songs, express yourself. That's what music's for. And back to the first track, Come Together. It's letting you express yourself and connect with people, because we're all trying to that's the human condition. 100%. And music is just a perfect conduit for it.
Absolutely,
so
for sure.
Have fun with it, but find your own voice.
I like it. Good advice. Ladies and gentlemen, the newest release from August Zadra is called Guiding Star. It's available now. Check your digital platforms for availability. You can also get the hard copy of it on Amazon's probably the best place to go, but I'm sure it's available elsewhere. Use that little Google thing. It'll tell you exactly where to go and get it. Now, I have to say one thing before we go.
Sure.
When this goes platinum, not if, when this goes platinum, we got to add to the collection. Just remember me, okay? That's all I'm asking.
When you first came on the camera, thanks for bringing it back full circle. So you got to walk me through this wall, brother. That's some impressive stuff back there.
Well, and they're all purchased, man. I'm not gonna lie. They're all bought. I bought them from off the internet and stuff. But you got my favorite album from Anthrax. Well, it's probably my favorite heavy metal album is Among the Living. Van Halen's 5150, really big in my life. And Faith No More is The Real Thing, which is another amazing album. And of course, I mean, you can't have platinum records without Stevie Ray Vaughan. So
you're well-rounded.
And these two I actually made for my father. My father was a banjo player, and I made those two for him when he put his CDs out. They never went, obviously, They didn't even go dust, but I made them for him, and he got a big kick out of it. He loved
How
it.
sweet.
Yeah, buddy.
Wow. I was telling last night how I said, here's a quick little blurb that at one point over the weekend, I think it peaked but on some Amazon chart, I was number 39 in new releases. And I said, that probably means that 39 people have bought the record, and it's going to go aluminum. But another thing, thank you for saying platinum, and thank you for promoting this and loving all music like you clearly do. I don't have any, illusions of grand illusion again, but or expectations, but I have to allow myself the possibility that good things could happen. That's my wife is reminding me. I'm too quick to dismiss this, saying, "Oh yeah, I put out a record, but no one's going to find it and no one's going to hear it." But I have to have some faith. So thank you for, man, platinum. So you can buy platinum, you can have platinum records made. Is that what I'm learning?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, I mean, I actually have some of the older ones. This one's a gold one, just blanks. Put them in frames, stuff like that. So, yeah, I mean, you can get them. They're not super cheap, but
right. And have you seen the album of Guiding Star? I'm going to show you.
I've seen the cover, not the.
It's white vinyl.
Oh, that's the best.
This is something I'm so excited about.
Where can you get the white vinyl?
You can order it from Frontiers. They came to me when we were, the contract going through everything. They said, "Do you want to do a vinyl run?" And I said, "I'd love to." And it becomes a commitment where I'm buying 140 copies of the vinyl to sell myself. So you can contact me through my Facebook or Instagram or my website, email, any way you can find me. But you can buy them from Frontiers, or I'm going to be selling them myself as well. And that gives me the option to sign them too.
I will. You know what I'll do? I'll contact you when we're all done with this.
Please,
I will contact you on Facebook, and if you wouldn't mind, maybe throwing a marker on it real quick, and that'd be great. I'd appreciate that.
Absolutely, brother. Absolutely.
So guys, listen. Go out, buy 2 copies of this thing. Buy a digital one and a hard copy. Get the vinyl. Buy 3. We're gonna get this thing sold, brother, for sure. But you won't be disappointed, man. This album it's fresh, it's crisp, it's new. You'll definitely hear some of the older influences in there, but I'm telling you, you can't go wrong with this. Guiding Star, available now, most digital platforms. Brother, it has been an absolute pleasure to have you today. Thank you for stopping by and giving way too much time to me, for sure. But
thank you for everything you're doing for me and for music in general. We need people like you to help keep spreading the word.
I definitely appreciate that, man. Ladies and gentlemen, August Zadra. Thank you, August.
Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.